Salve discipuli, this is help for your Latin studies in Henle First Year Latin exercise number 275, where we'll be translating sentences from Latin into English, and we'll be working with more purpose clauses, and these will be introduced by the word quo. So I encourage you to read closely on page 263 of your lesson book about purpose clauses introduced by quo. And it tells us that when a purpose clause contains a comparative, that would be a word, an adverb with an ER ending, or that's preceded by the word more. So you're comparing things. It was longer. It was more easily done. So a comparative, okay? Then instead of ut, you would use quo. But if it's negated, you would still use nay. So quo in those clauses never changes its spelling, and it tells us that we'll study more about comparatives later, but it does tell us here in the box to memorize the complete rule for purpose clauses in the grammar book, number 546. So let's take a look there. 546 about purpose clauses. They can be introduced by ut or as a negative, nay. They can be introduced by a relative pronoun such as qui, quae, and quod, or any of those forms. Or, as we're going to learn right now, they can be introduced by quo. Again, if it's negative, we would still use nay before a comparative. The mood will still be subjunctive in that subordinate clause. So remember back to the diagrams where it tells us the sequence of tenses, right? If the main clause, if the verb of the main clause is in a primary tense, then, which would be present, future, or future perfect, then that's what it tells us right there. After the primary tense, use the present. Then we would use, yes, the present subjunctive in the secondary clause, the subordinate clause. Okay. And if the verb in the main clause is a secondary tense, that would be imperfect, pluperfect, or perfect. Then your subordinate clause tense will be subjunctive imperfect. Okay, so let's take a look at number 1 of exercise 275, which says, legatus custodes ad flumen statim collocavit, quo facilius pontem defenderent. All right, so I have the main clause written first and the subordinate clause written below. Just separated those out so we can look at them independently. So legatus is our subject, and it's a nominative, singular, masculine noun of the second declension, and it means lieutenant or envoy. Custodes is a new word just recently given, from custos, custodes. It's a third declension noun meaning guard. So this ending in the third declension family is going to be ace, ibis, ace, ibis. It could be nominative or accusative. Well, we already have a subject, and so we'll assume here that this is accusative. It's plural, and it is, according to the Sachs rule, and then look at the note. Guards are usually soldiers. Therefore, what gender is custos? Probably masculine, according to natural gender. All right. So custodes. And then we have ad flumen. So remember that preposition ad can mean several different things. But we know flumen here is a third declension neuter noun. Flumen, fluminous. And ad always takes the accusative, so this noun is in the accusative form and it's singular and it's neuter. So I'll write those notes down. We're probably saying at the river or by the river, something like that. Statim is an adverb meaning immediately. Nothing really to consider there. It just is what it is. And then here's our verb, colloquit. Colloquit is, I believe, but I'm going to double check myself, I believe this is a first conjugation verb. There it is. Colloco, meaning place or station. So we think through those four principal parts: colloco, collocare, collocavi, collocatus. So we see that our stem has that V of the third principal part, which puts it in the perfect system. And this ending, isti, it, is a perfect ending. It's third person singular and perfect. And it is agreeing with our subject in person and number, right? A third person singular. Okay, so we have here means stationed, right? Stationed, we'll put an ED on that because it's past completed action. So the lieutenant stationed, well, immediately, we'll probably, in English, we would put that first. The lieutenant immediately stationed who or what? Guards. That's our DO right here, right? Our direct object. So the lieutenant immediately stationed guards ad flumen, by the river, at the river. Why? Why? This is our purpose clause. That, we'll use quo to say that. We have faculus pontem defenderent. So this is our verb. That's pretty easy to spot. The NT tells me it's third person plural, so I'm just going to make that note right away. This is another new vocabulary word right here. It's an adverb meaning more easily. So I'm just going to mark that like I did statim above. And then this is a noun from the third declension, pons pontis. And it's a third declension noun meaning bridge. And if we think through those endings, this EM, this M, it's going to go various SEM. That's a direct object. It's accusative, singular, and feminine by the Sachs rule. Okay, and that always, I always think about the gender because sometimes we don't necessarily do anything with that information, but if we added an adjectives to these sentences, those would have to agree with the same gender, so that would matter. Okay, so bridge. And defendo, defendere, that's a third conjugation verb meaning to defend. And it's a third person plural. Remember that because we used a perfect tense verb up here, that means that our subordinate clause, our purpose clause, is going to be subjunctive imperfect. Let's look in the grammar book. Here. Subjunctive, imperfect, third conjugation. Yep, defenderent, defenderent. It's basically that second principal part, the infinitive, defendere, with an NT is how we do the subjunctive imperfect. And that would be translated as that they might defend, right? Okay, so we'll go ahead and we're going to say that's imperfect and it's subjunctive, not to be confused with the word subject. So the lieutenant immediately stationed guards by the river. That they, here's our subject, it's in the verb because we don't have another noun acting as a subject noun. So that they might defend the bridge. And here's our comparative, more easily. Okay, I hope this has been helpful to you. Have a great day.